Some of the things to look at when you're considering a domain name for your website are things like memorability. Will people, if they see the domain name, will they remember it when they get back to their computers to look for your business? The other things to look at are things such as, is it easy to spell? If it's a domain name that's easy to misspell, then you could potentially lose a lot of traffic that your hard-earned advertising dollars have tried to bring to your site. Similarly, you need to look at the extension, and that's what comes after the domain name itself. .biz, for example, might not sort of suggest as much credibility as some others. And does it match the market that you're trying to reach? For example, in Australia, .au is truly king. Truly powerful domain name, it has to match your business. Ideally, it says exactly what you do in a short, succinct fashion. Generic domain names are best because they tend to do that. They tell you what the company does. But also they've got inherent value. That can be important for if your venture doesn't work out, you can potentially resell it at a later date. The best domain names you can get are what's called category killer domains. And they're domains that actually define a whole industry. So not just your business, but it lets you own the space. Domains such as lawyers.com.au or photographers.com.au. Not only is nobody going to forget that, it positions the company, the website behind it, as the authority in that area. The domain name aftermarket is where you can actually buy and sell domain names. It's a relatively new concept in an industry, and it's only been available in Australia for 2 years. So people are finding that if they have a domain name they no longer have a need for, they can actually put it up for sale, and another company, another business can come along and purchase it from them. There's also speculators in there, people who have expressly invested in domain names with a view to selling them on for a profit. If the domain name you've chosen in the first place is generic, it has inherent value. So you don't just have to let it expire and go to waste. If you look hard, and looking on the aftermarket is the first port of call, you may well be able to find a buyer for that domain name. So you can recoup some of that losses, or in some circumstances even make money on the whole transaction. Well, the Netregistry customers, if they're considering acquiring a new domain name, they should certainly give the aftermarket a look before they go ahead and hand register a domain name. Often the difference in purchase prices is not that great. You might spend $50 to register a domain name, but for a few $100, you might be able to get a domain name that's significantly more valuable. A couple of $100 now could well, if a well-chosen domain name, literally save you thousands year in, year out for the life of that domain name. Well, Netfleet is the largest domain aftermarket on the web for Australian domain names. We've specifically focused on Australian-only domain names. And so our market is Australian and our sellers are Australian. We actually had a very large sale settle last week, and that was a domain name websitedesign.com.au. So that sold for $22,000. Again, the buyer has bought that looking at the search terms, looking at the keywords, looking how it defines exactly what they do. And I have no doubt that once they develop a website around that domain, that money will be made back many times over within the first couple of years. But aside from that, there's lots of smaller sales that happen every day on Netfleet. We all get excited with these tens of thousands of dollars, but often simply spending $300 rather than your standard registration fee can make a whole heap of difference to a business. So there's plenty of small businesses, medium businesses, spending a few $100s to secure what's ultimately their address on the internet. My number one domain name tip is not to compromise. Whether you're hand registering a domain or buying a domain, just make sure it fits your business. You really only get one chance at this. One way to look at it is compare it with the real world. If you're setting up a shop, for example, you can spend thousands of dollars setting up a beautiful shop, a lovely shop front, you've got a great product, but then you're not going to put that shop in some back alley where nobody drives by. Buying a quality domain name is putting yourself on the map. You're putting your shop, your website, right smack in the middle of a high street. So you're going to have customers coming through, seeing your shop, which is your great website, seeing your great product, and then hopefully buying.